India is well known for its technological prowess in rockets, in satellites, and in space technology. I'm currently standing inside the headquarters of the Indian Space Research Organization, one of India's most loved organizations. I always say it is an island of excellence. And I have with me Mr. S Somanath, the chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization and the secretary of the Department of Space. The Department of Space has a new thrust on having more launches and going in for certain amount of commercialization as the space sector has been opened up. Mr. Somnath, this whole new effort on trying to make more commercial launches, is that panning out?
Yeah, of course it is. It is really showing good result, starting with the first ever commercial launch of GSLV Mark III, going to happen soon. We have signed contract for launching OneWeb series of satellites. In the first launch of GSLV Mark III, that will happen in this month, October, we'll launch 36 OneWeb satellites. And we are having a contract to launch one more GSLV Mark III with 36 more satellites. And with that, we hope that the launches of GSLV Mark III will continue for launching of its future generation of satellites. And we hope that we will be one of the prime launchers of the world to handle the LEO communication
low Earth.
Yeah, low Earth orbit communication satellite, which are being launched in thousands.
Now, how difficult was it to get the OneWeb satellites to get launched from India? Because they had many opportunities.
Of course, this launch service market is a very competitive market, and it is also guided by the geopolitical situations. The geopolitical situations today forward us, so naturally there is an opportunity. The whole question is, when you have an opportunity like that, how best you are able to capture it by offering a rocket with the required interfaces and capabilities to meet their requirements. So that is our success. We were very quick to respond, grab that opportunity and offer to the customer that we can meet their requirement by modifying or adapting to their need. And that is a success.
Now, isn't LVM3, that is the new name for GSLV Mark III?
This is Launch Vehicle Mark III. You can call it Launch Vehicle Mark III. That is LVM3.
So the Launch Vehicle Mark III, is it not far more capable of doing what it does than just launch these 36 small satellites?
LVM3 is designed to do many, many more things. It can do satellites in low Earth orbit, as we are doing now for this OneWeb. It has already done launching of Chandrayaan-2, going to moon. It has done suborbital mission in its X mission, is it not? So, and also did the communication satellite launches into GTO. In the future, it will do launches of human beings to the orbital of low Earth orbit. So, it is definitely having wide varieties of capabilities like any other rocket.
It is a simple rocket, I am told, and that is why it gives more reliability.
Simple by the measures of simplicity, I want to add. Rocket is a complex machine, let me tell you.
And you are a rocket scientist.
I happen to be a rocket scientist. So I know it a little bit, and then I can tell you for guarantee that there are thousands of complex components in the simplest of a rocket. So that makes it a very simple, elegant, complex machine. So, but comparing with the various other rockets of the world, and also that is in our store, GSLV Mark III or the LVM3 is a simpler rocket in terms of its architecture and production and reliability, of course.
Now, I'm jumping ahead and asking you something. See, these two launches which you are doing of LVM3 or GSLV, Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle Mark III, are these really stepping stones towards the human space flight? Because you haven't been launching the GSLV Mark III for a long time.
See, let us understand that the last launch of LVM3 was for Chandrayaan-2. After that, there was no launch. That was a period we used for converting LVM3 to a human-rated launch vehicle, in which the many elements of this rocket went through further testing. For example, the S200 booster went through one more static test. So we prepared a new motor for that purpose. Then we did the engine test of L110 for multiple times to ensure that it is more reliable after making certain changes. And then we also did the test on cryogenic engine multiple times to prove that it has a higher levels of reliability. So you are actually improving the reliability of the rocket in that process. So the good time of no launches we made use to convert the rocket to a human-rated launch vehicle. So today LVM-3 is a human-rated rocket. So that is one step that we are going to do. But one more point is that now the human-rated launch vehicle launches carrying the human beings are a little far away. We want to make use of accumulating more and more launches. Basically, a rocket becomes reliable with increased number of launches. Correct. So if you don't launch them, their reliability will not be demonstrated. So what we thought is it is appropriate to launch them in numbers for commercial launches as well as other institutional launches, and also work on the human-rated launch vehicle activity, so that when you really do the launches of human craft, you have number of launches accumulated which will demonstrate its strength.
Yeah. Let's devote a little time to more of your commercial aspects. Recently, there's been much talk earlier about giving the polar satellite launch vehicle to the industry. Recently, you've had some kind of an understanding where Larsen & Toubro and HAL are going to take it forward. Tell me a little about it.
So this is the move by NSIL.
Which is the New Space India Limited, which is your public sector
undertaking of Department of Space, and they have been mandated to take this task of industrializing PSLV production. So they went into a public call for proposal, and the best offer was selected based on a tendering process, and that happened to be a consortia headed by HAL with L&T as a prime partner, and probably they will take more partners into it in building PSLV. The contract currently is to build 5 PSLVs, and that will be funded by NSIL, and they will build the PSLV, making use of the ISRO technological support. And while they do, ISRO will be behind them to create those 5 PSLVs to start with. And after 5, they will be free to build as many they want based on the market demand. So now, after building 5, they will know how to build PSLV, and they can source the material, they can do the manufacturing, they can integrate it and launch it themselves. And NSIL can source it, or the consortia will be free to sell it on a commercial basis with the approval of InSpace.
So the first 5 would really be ISRO launches, or will they be the consortia launches? But
now it is owned by NSIL. NSIL is a funding agency for these 5 vehicles, and NSIL will decide what they want to do with it. They can use it for commercial launches, they can offer to ISRO for launching of ISRO vehicles, or they can sell to anybody they want. They are free to do it.
And you think both HAL and Larsen & Toubro have the capability to give you a full vehicle?
As we have, there was a strict evaluation process of these parties who have been selected. In that tendering process itself, the parties' capabilities, prerequisites have been well detailed. So naturally, they are found to be technically capable of handling this job. And you probably, HAL is the leading manufacturer of all the hardwares, light alloy structures, hardwares for PSLV for very, and even now they are manufacturing.
So also L&T.
So also L&T manufacturing most of the steel manufacturing for the motor cases and other elements for satellites and launch vehicle. So both of them are engineering competency exists to handle complex problems of this nature. And moreover, HAL has been integrating stages. They have integrated L40s, they have integrating plan to integrate second stages, and they have been building satellite structures. So they have a large scale integration capability as well. And that L&T also has. They have done complex engineering integration activities. So together they will be able to bring in many more actors. Maybe today, PSL is manufactured not by 3 industries, they are manufactured hundreds of industries. So they have to bring in second tier, third tier layer of industries to do this work for them. And ISRO will support them. We have already supplied the vendor base to them, which they will have second.
Or they'll use the same vendor base because trusted sources.
We have to go only with the trusted sources. So the vendor base is already explained to them, and they will source it from them and then manufacture the vehicle.
How soon can we have the first consort?
As per the agreement, it has to be done in 24 months, but I have put a much tighter schedule on them.
So when do we expect?
I said it should be done in 12 months.
So when do we expect the first launch? The first launch from L&T HAL consort?
Loca started running for 1 year.
So we see within this year?
Within 1 year.
So what, 2023?
Within 1 year from now is 12 months from now.
Okay, so hopefully in 2023 we see the first essentially a private sector commercial launch.
We will say it is, no, we have been doing commercial launch. I will define the launch as NSIL owned PSL will be launched by industry consortia in 2023.
Why do you have to say NSI alone? Because it can be,
It is currently NSIL owned because we have transferred the rocket only to NSIL, and NSIL is the owner of the, because they are funding the rocket. So future, if industry themselves can raise the fund and build rocket, then it will become industry.
So it's not like a technology transfer to Larsen and Toubro and to HL.
Technology transfer, because PSLV technology transfer capability doesn't exist in industry. The technology can still be only within ISRO. The knowledge level required over wide varieties of subjects is not there in industry. Possibly, we expect that this will happen over a period of time. Right now, what you are transferred is a manufacturing IP. So they know how to manufacture and operate the rocket, but the basis on which the whole manufacturing is done, or the basis on which the design is done, is not known to anybody. Sure. It is still known to only ISRO. So ISRO's backing is required for various aspects, like review of the deviations, review of the mission, then quality control and quality assessment, launch authorization, and operation of certain critical facilities to support them for launch, etc., has to continue in ISRO's fold, and that whatever cost will be incurred in ISRO will be charged to the.
Oh, you will charge them?
Yeah, nothing is free in this world.
No, see, when the taxpayer is paying for it, yeah, it is sometimes for your public sector undertaking. It is taken as
the launch is going to be for commercial purpose. So whatever money effort we are taking, we have to be compensated.
Now, while that is going on, you also had a launch of the small satellite launch vehicle, SSLV. Most of it went right. At the last stage, something went wrong. Have you been able to find out what went wrong with the small satellite launch vehicle, and how soon can we come back?
See, this is the beauty and complexity and interest in a rocket. See, if everything works, still one item doesn't work, then you are doomed. So that is proven again in a launch of SSLV. A very, very simple anomaly, which could have been happening, not happening, would have made them success. So it's a difference in which success and failure is just thin hairline. Okay. And that we were able to identify it, luckily, because of huge amount of data that is available on board. And we analyzed the data, and we could understand it reasonably well in the beginning, immediately on the day of the failure itself, which I talked publicly. But subsequent analysis revealed very, very clearly that the reason for that is same, but then we went into a little more deeper to understand how to prevent it in the future. And that has already been done. The failure analysis committee has submitted its report, and based on that, all suggestions for correction have been well defined, and we are in the process of completing the rocket. And I took a review recently, and the vehicle is getting ready now, and with most of the corrections. And in few months of time, before this year end, we should be able to do a launch.
So second launch of the SSLV before the year end?
Yes.
And what kind of payload?
It will be a similar payload. Similar.
So an IMS and some student sats aside.
Etc.
And because that I am told is going to be a real commercial winner if it succeeds. That's the outlook which I have seen for SSLV. Is that your outlook also?
See, this SSLV was designed with a certain purpose. It was designed not for ISRO. It was designed for the industry to use as a platform for launching large number of emerging smaller satellites market. So it was designed for commercial purpose. So after the development launches are completed, we are going to transfer to industry, and that process again will go through the similar technology transfer process to industry.
So it's different from the PSLV.
It's different from PSLV. We want to make it different because PSLV has liquid propulsion and more complexity. SSLV is designed with a lesser complexity so that industry can absorb the technology and do it on their own. So this is the difference in SSLV, and the whole transfer of technology for SSLV will be done in a different mode. It will be a technology transfer, not a manufacturing knowledge transfer. So this is approach, and with that, the industries will be capable of doing better engineering it, cost improvement, etc., on top of it, and they will be free to do it for larger market.
Now, while we are still talking of rockets, there is a private sector company, Agnikul, which is now wanting to launch their first rocket, and they told me before the end of the year. Have you had a chance to look at their rocket closely? Are they ready for the claim they are making?
See, I don't review, I have not reviewed their rocket yet, but I know that what they are going to do based on the data which they have supplied for clearances from Department of Space and InSpace. They are going for a suborbital launch. Agnikul is developing a liquid engine, and they will be launching a sort of a controlled suborbital mission in which liquid engine will be controlled, and aerodynamically controlled, properly controlled vehicle will be launched, which will demonstrate the flight of a liquid engine. So with a limited purpose. To that extent, they are ready for launch in this year itself.
Now, we still don't have a space law, we don't have a space policy. Now, when a private startup, even though incubated by IIT Madras, who takes care of the liability if something goes wrong?
See, something goes wrong there are many things that can go wrong in a rocket. It can go wrong during servicing, it can go wrong during preparation, it can go wrong in launch. So all these are analyzed. We collect through the data which is provided to us, and we study it from various points of design completeness, statutory requirements in terms of margins, etc. We also read through their mission studies and ensure that when they launch from Sriharikota, which is an identified location, Sriharikota, there are no casualty possibilities within the range which we are deciding in sea as well as in land. So these aspects are taken care. So that means that we will ensure that there are no liability issues coming up, but nothing can be avoided, because during preparation anything happens, there are liabilities. So of course this part of the liability will be still with the company who is who is going to do. But you are right. So in the absence of a policy or legal protection against liability still not coming up, there are issues which we have to take care.
So that brings me to the question of the space policy. When do we see a full-fledged space policy, and when do we see a space law?
See, the space policy is currently completed all its mandatory reviews with respect to all stakeholders like the industry consortia, the interministerial consultations, and also the empowered committees in government, and it is now with the government for approval from cabinet. I hope it can happen any time, and they are working on it to complete it at the earliest. So I don't prescribe a time for something that is the responsibility of the cabinet. I hope it will come. Then you asked about the law, space law or a space act. Okay, so the act will have to be, act is already drafted and it is also with the government, and they have to schedule it in the parliamentary subcommittee discussions, and it is a very long-term process. It is not like policy. Possibly it may take a year or more sometimes. And the need of that will come only on the questions what you raised here, because legal protection against liability is the biggest issue which can happen when major activities like launches, owning satellites in orbit, and collateral damage, etc. will have to be discussed. Of course, this will have to work with the government to ensure that it is done faster.
And also, see, there are international liabilities, because these are now ramifications with the international treaties. So you have to harmonize both the Indian law with the international treaties. So that is a process which is on, or has it already been done?
See, international treaty ownership is with the government. It is not with any private party. So naturally, when the government is taking responsibility through the mechanism which you have created, like in space, etc., in space become the regulator to take on ensuring that compliances, and they will do that through their guidelines and principles.
So initially for the Agnikul launch, would it be Chairman ISRO, Secretary DOS, and Chairman of InSpace who would take the major responsibilities of clearing it?
See, you understand that the responsibility of non-governmental entities to promote that work as well as to handhold them is with InSpace. And InSpace is an integral part of Department of Space. So that way, Chairman InSpace is a primary responsibility, and my role is supporting.
So it would be his responsibility to make sure that it's a very safe rocket which is there. And beyond that, let's come to satellites. What is happening on the satellites? Because there is again a push to try and get more commercial launches for satellites and more launches which are essentially supported from outside ISRO.
See, there are many things happening in satellite side. The first and foremost is we launched our first commercial satellite, demand-driven satellite of NSIL GSAT-24 some time back. That is working very well. We launched the...
Which is the one which is owned by Tata's?
Which is for Tata Sky, for DTS services it is used.
Tata Play now.
Tata Play now. Okay, of course, Tata Play. Now, we launched our own demand for internal use for ministries. We have launched the radar imaging satellite, and we are going to launch the ocean satellite. Both are owned by ministries and departments for imaging, which they have funded now, which is a different model of support. And we are going to go for next series of satellites taking approval in ResourceSat series, 2 satellites from government departments to fund us to realize them, which we are soon going to various departments to clear it through our established processes. We are also getting ready to launch our NAVIC satellites, replacement satellites to enhance its current operational state, etc., etc.
Now, you mentioned about this new way of resourcing of satellites. Is it working? Are the ministries ready to fund? Because till now they were dependent on ISRO finding the money and ISRO launching it and giving them the data.
The whole point here is to understand it's all government money. It is ISRO's money or the department's agriculture.
Actually, your and my money.
It's okay, public money.
Yes.
Yeah, taxpayers' money to use it appropriately. Yes. The US way of using it. Okay.
No, the Indian way is also that. Both of us pay taxes.
Okay. So when you use taxpayers' money, it matters who bills. It matters. The reason is that you own responsibility for the money that you have put forth on the table for building it. So if ISRO is building a satellite, the utilization of the satellite is not always on ISRO's responsibility. Suppose you build it for agriculture purpose, and it's the agriculture department or the ministries have to make use of the data and then produce outcome out of it, which they have already declared for while doing it. It makes people responsible. And once agriculture ministry funds certain amount of share of this, a Ministry of Environment and Forests take a share, or IMD put a share, or whoever, forest or climate change or whatever. So it actually puts them on a higher pedestal. They make them, part of it.
They're stakeholders.
They become stakeholder. They are owner. They can claim tomorrow this satellite is owned by us and we have to make use of it. This ownership comes. And precisely for this purpose, you make them responsible to offer certain share of the satellite to be owned by them. So this coordination is a little tricky because, it is very easy to ask for one satellite money from government. Government will be happy to fund ISRO. But when you have to coordinate with the 10 other ministries and get that money, it is tricky. But we are successful so far and we will continue to work with it. It also mandates ISRO that you need to work with the users and you need to convince them to agree to the money. So it also puts us on responsibility to meet the requirement of that user while building the satellite. So it is a very good approach, both in terms of them taking responsibility in terms of utilization and ISRO taking responsibility building a satellite which is suitable for them.
It's a new approach.
It is a good approach, new approach. Of course, we will work on it.
Have we done any like that just now?
Already 2 launched. I said the last 2 launches of radar imaging satellite and OceanSat, which is going to come, are in that approach.
So radar imaging is owned by the Ministry of Defense?
It is primarily owned by the Ministry of Agriculture and others like MOE.
So whosoever can use the data uses it, but primarily owned by
them. And if there is a spare capacity, it will be given to others.
But because earlier you had a lot of success with the India Meteorological Department because they have done very well use of satellite data, especially for cyclone warning, etc. So that there is a success story there. Correct. But beyond that, now this is a new model where they even will have to pay for it. So there will be more stakeholders. You also recently had some kind of an agreement with a private space company for satellite-based internet?
No, we have not. We are talking about whatever high-throughput satellites which we have being leased out for providing internet connectivity through Hughes.
Yes.
Okay. So that is already signed through the telecom, DOT, Hughes and internet services, which is one of the business opportunity for our we have 3 high-throughput satellites, and we have been trying to popularize its use now. As far as India is concerned, these high-throughput satellites are very, very, very useful because they give spot images to where there is a high traffic, especially cities, etc. And it also has a global Indian capability. So many of them are finding it slowly useful, and it is actually cheaper than the VSAT services in terms of the data rate. So I believe it will slowly propagate.
But essentially, what is the model there? How will they access? Is it just the frequency, or is it they will start owning the satellite, the high throughput?
Satellites are still with the Department of Space, and currently through an agreement that we give to the operators, which you have base stations or the ground hubs for them to service it. So they have to receive it and then hand it over to the terminals. So they will do the user aggregation and bring it to the bandwidth or the whatever has been allocated to the company.
Who was using it till now, these three of them?
No, we have other ministries which are using it and departments which are using it, and we are giving to various users like the BSNL, BBNL, etc.
So will public also be able to access internet through that?
Public cannot do. Public has to go through a service provider.
No, the service provider, can he give satellite-based internet?
What they are going to give is, it is not currently not for individual purpose, because the technology is not designed for a home-based thing. It is for an institution. For example, you have an office space where there are 100 people working, and you want to get a high bandwidth internet connectivity through satellite directly there. You can call them and install a small hub on top of your building and receive internet straight there.
And again, this is where user fee will come to ISRO, or how will it be?
It will not come to ISRO. It is currently it is to ISRO. That is through the aggregator or the service provider. It will come to ISRO, and we are planning to transfer it also to NSIL as a business.
So NSIL is going to become the more revenue-generating part of the Department of Space.
They are mandated to be a revenue generator and a business builder, and through the revenue, they should ask Department of Space to do more revenue generating work.
But they will not, whatever money they generate will go to the consolidated fund of India. It will not come to ISRO.
No, they are a PSU. PSU model is that whatever income they make, they have to pay to the shareholder. The shareholder is a Department of Space. So they will give the money to the Department of Space, which will naturally go to CFI.
So ultimately, your dependence on government funding is going to come down, is what it seemed to me, and you will be looking at external sources?
See, it is not like that. The government is supporting all the research and development activities of the Department of Space. It also maintains the whole infrastructure and facilities and pay our salaries. So it is a huge responsibility government has already taken to maintain the research and development ecosystem of space. So that is a primary responsibility of government. But when you look at the role of government in building operational systems and commercial exploitation of this, it's not with the government. It cannot be. It is in the realm of the users and the market demand. So the essential role of ISRO in providing that part of the job is going to be reduced, and it will move to a PSU, which will do this in better manner, because they will understand the market dynamics. They will adopt to the need of the user and build systems based on the need. If it is not required, won't build. If it is needed, it will be built. So whereas ISRO will continue to work on research and development, future explorations, science research, R&D development, that feeds into better and better systems of tomorrow. So these are two different things, and government is going to support the R&D ecosystem, future development, as the vision of the country what is needed. That part will be supported by government.
So essentially, critical technology development will remain with ISRO. The repeat launches and the commercialization will head towards the industry, or a PSU. On the commercial space, lots of activity on sending rockets to the private sector and trying to see more launches, and the startup sector also revving up in a big way. India's space sector really reaching for a new orbit. At the Indian Space Research Organization headquarters in Bengaluru, Pallava, Bagla,